Last weekend, we went to Rhode Island to see Anya for the big birthday and for the first legal drinks at 21. And we took her out for multiple meals and bought her multiple cocktails. And she was very disappointed that no one asked for her ID once.
Oh, bless her. Oh, what a complete and utter disappointment. So she was officially old enough to drink.
Old enough to drink, and no one challenged her on it, which of course made her think, boy, I could have done this before and no one would have asked. But anyway, hello and welcome to the Impromptu Game Plan. As always, I'm Sarah Ferguson.
And I'm Catherine Reynolds. And together we're co-authoring a book and a body of work called The Impromptu Game Plan.
And Catherine, this morning we are talking to another friend of mine. We seem to have a whole lot of very interesting, generous friends and colleagues who are prepared to share with us. Today we're talking to Geesha, who I worked with in my last role at PwC. And she's very interesting. I know she's developed a real interest and passion around sustainability, and she's going to talk to us about her latest venture that really is rooted in sustainability today.
Oh, fantastic. I can't wait, Sarah. I think, Sarah, as well, what I can see happening is we've got a really good pipeline of guests lined up to come on to the podcast. But I think that those people who are becoming regular listeners to the podcast, if people have got good ideas, who else we might actually invite, or even if people wanted to be a guest interviewer, then it would be great to hear from people.
Absolutely. Let us know. You can go to our website, theimpromptugameplan.com, and contact us there. We'd love to hear from people. Absolutely. So anyway, welcome, Geesha. Thanks for joining us. It really is so lovely to see you. The last year and a half has been so weird. It feels like I haven't seen anybody forever. But in your case, you're right. I think it's been about 3 years.
Yeah, it has. It's been a really long time. I'm thinking about when I think November 2017, I left PwC. So that's more than that, Sarah.
Wow.
My goodness.
Wow. Well, the last year and a half sort of been a throwaway for the entire world.
Yeah. Well, not for us, actually. The last year and a half has been a complete whirlwind trying to set this business up. So we've kind of benefited from Corona in the sense of we've been able to distract ourselves because we've just been so busy, which has been quite nice.
And not to sort of put the story back to front, but we always say you should start your story wherever you feel comfortable. Given that you have a food service business and no one is being able to go out to restaurants, you seem to have had a business that is very much for the times.
Yeah, but that was an accident. It really was just dumb luck, because we had started talking about setting up a food business with Sri Lankan food, and I had already thought about the system which would work with the family and sustainability. So it was I was like, no way, I'm not doing a restaurant. I'm not leaving my two boys, at home while we're working morning, noon and night. This is not going to happen. So the system was such that it was going to be pre-order and then delivery on one day. We'd have 2 set days where we'd be cooking. And so it was very, very structured. And then we started in March, just as the lockdown happened. So it just kind of, we were just really lucky that was our system, and we didn't, decide to do a Sri Lankan restaurant where it was open to the public. And it took off because of that, because of the situation. People were using the internet a lot more. They were all online looking for, food that could be brought home, or having some sort of a system where they could pick it up without, with social distancing. Yeah. So it happened really by dumb luck. Seriously, we were just really lucky.
That's why we call this podcast the Impromptu Game Plan. Some of it's planned, some of it's just by chance. I think something that we've really seen in our conversations with people is that career success and happiness often comes to the people who are able to take advantage of those accidents, good or bad. Things happen, and people's ability to navigate those things are part of what really creates career success.
Geesha, tell me, whereabouts in Germany is the business based? Whereabouts do you live?
So we are in the middle of bloody nowhere, outside of Dusseldorf. Okay, right. So we're like half an hour from the Dutch border and half an hour north of Dusseldorf.
So let's just cover some basics off. So you are Sri Lankan, but you grew up in Britain, right? In London?
Yeah.
And your business is Sri Lankan food. Have you always cooked it at home?
No, Sarah, I have literally started cooking in my late 30s. And Sven, my husband, has been the one who's been the cook always. I was a takeaway girl from the beginning, from the get-go. If I'm in charge of food, I get takeaway. That was my parenting for my children.
And so it was an absolutely obvious pivot to say, I'm going to start a food services business as someone who's never boiled an egg.
So hold on. So when we lived in South America, I started cooking. So I started cooking very badly, but I'm someone who catches up fairly fast. So I just practice. And then when I left PwC, I was anyway cooking when I was in Frankfurt. And we used to always have friends over and I'd be cooking Sri Lankan food because we'd miss it. So we'd have friends over and I'd be cooking rice and curry. And then when I left PwC, I did it more. And then when we moved up here to the countryside, I did it even more and thought, oh, this could be a business, because all of my husband's friends used to come around and they'd be like, oh, your food's really good, you should sell this. But I'm just like, yeah. Everybody says, when you're good at something, they're like, oh, I'd buy that. And you're like, yeah, okay. You say it now. And then when you have to pay for it, then we see. And so actually it started off as more of just feeding people and seeing whether this could turn into a business. Then I did a whole bunch of market research and just kept feeding friends, fed like officers, just saying, we want your feedback, see what you think, and filling out big I'm the survey queen,
yes.
Right? So statistics and analytics are my thing. So I just started doing lots and lots of research, feeding people, asking them what their kind of price category would be for this sort of food, and whether it's too hot, whether, because spicy food here is not a thing. And just did a whole bunch of research. And then actually, as I said, Sven's the one who likes to cook. So at some point I said, well, you don't like what you're doing. He did like physical manual labor up here, building exhibition stands. So I said, shall we do this business together? Because we had really good feedback, and the prices that they were talking about, I did all my recipe costings and to see whether it was viable, and the budgets, how much we could spend on a kitchen, what we needed to do to build up this sort of a business here. There's rules up to here, so needed to check all of that out. And he was like, okay, let's do this. So he quit his job last year. The beginning of last year, 31st of December 2019, he was done. 1st of Jan we started planning it, figuring out what we needed to do, and then in March we set up the business officially, registered it, and got going.
And it's funny, you're talking about your budgeting, your statistics, and I was looking at your LinkedIn profile. You started out as an accountant, right?
Yeah. Before that, I did aeronautics and astronautics at uni. I was an engineer. I'm just one of those people who just sort of falls into, I don't know, I feel my way through. And with the engineering, when I started it, I had very grandiose ideas of being like, some real little rocket scientist, and I was rubbish. But then I didn't stop. I wanted to get my degree, so I didn't quit. I carried on and I finished it. Had a chat with lots of friends and like friends' parents to figure out what I wanted to do. And one of my friend's parents was a management accountant. No, he was an accountant, a chartered accountant. And he knew me really well. And he said, you don't want to be a chartered accountant, but maybe you'd like to do management accounts. So I did some research and I had handed out my CV, and Arthur Andersen's were there at the time. And when I finished uni, they called me and I was like, who are you? I remember giving the CV, and they said, would you like to come in for an interview where we're doing like a guinea pig program for graduates? Would you like to do it? So I was like, totally up for it. Okay, let's do this. So they had always had graduates who came in as accountants, like in the client facing side, but they'd never done it internally. So they wanted to start a program, and so I was the first one who did it. It was really cool. That was actually the most fun I think I've ever had in a career, was working with them.
But then you stopped being an accountant.
Yes. No, not immediately. Then I was working because of course Enron happened.
Yes.
That was the end of that.
That was the end of Arthur Andersen.
That was the end of Arthur Andersen. So I was like, well, anyway, I'd been there for 3 years. I'd done my graduate program. So, and to get your chartership, you have to also have various experience. So I thought, okay, it's a good time for me to go into manufacturing and kind of do a different sort of experience. Worked for a cookie company, yum, put on a lot of weight, and and then actually, oh yeah, so then I was married when I was very young and divorced very young also. So that was like a turning point for me, and I actually left England at that point, and I went to live in Sri Lanka. Actually, no, I didn't. I went to Australia first and spent 6 months in Sydney and blew every penny that I had saved. I was a very like good Sri Lankan girl. So I went to university. I got the corporate job, which was supposed to be stable and for life. Yeah. Had the husband, had the family car and the mortgage. I was done. At the age of 23, I had ticked off all the boxes. And at the age of 25, I was divorced, and I thought, what the hell did I just spend the last, 6 years or 7 years doing? I packed up my stuff, went to Sri Lanka. I dumped all my belongings with my mother, and I'm going. And went off to Sydney, lived a bit. I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and I just knew I didn't want to do the norm. I did get a job for like 3 weeks, and then I anyway ended up leaving because I needed to go back to Sri Lanka because I ran out of money. So I went back to Sri Lanka, and then I got a job there as a trainer. I went in as an accountant. I went in for a job interview as an accountant for an accountancy role. They were building an outsourcing company in Sri Lanka. So it was an Indian outsourcing company, and they were building their first branch in Sri Lanka. So I went in for the interview, and then they said, would you mind going out? And so I was like, okay, no problem. So I went outside, and then I came back in again. They called me back in again. And they said, would you like to be a trainer? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. I would love that. So they said, no, we just think that maybe, you're not meant to be, because of your British background and then the accountancy staff and your personality, we think it would be a really good fit. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So they sent me to India, and I had to do all the train the trainer stuff, and it was fab. It was just really like being in a startup, but within a big company. So training, all the documentation, everything from top to bottom. And it was just wonderful. I loved being a trainer. I loved being in that environment and being able to kind of nurture all these people to do what they needed to do and to enjoy it. I was only there for a year because I knew I was really good at what I was doing, and my boss didn't want to promote me. And I said, this is really unfair. I know I'm young, but I know I'm doing everything that everybody on a senior management level is doing. I've done it. I've shown you that I can do it. And I think I should be promoted. And he was just like, mm-mm. And so when I went in to talk to him about the promotion, I had already written a resignation letter because that's just the way I roll. And when he started like fussing, I just went, you know what, never mind. And I put the resignation letter down, and I said, it's okay, but this isn't for me. And I set up my own corporate training company.
In Sri Lanka?
In Sri Lanka,
okay.
Yeah. And so I did that for a couple of years, and then I met Sven.
In Sri Lanka?
Yeah. And all hell broke loose after that. Yeah.
The German, as you call him.
Yeah, the German. Yeah. So met him there, and I was doing this, and then of course we had the kids.
And how old are the kids now?
They are 13 and 14.
So when did you move back to Germany? As soon as you met him?
No. So we were in Sri Lanka for about 7 years, I think.
Oh,
together.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So that's why he and I both cook, because he knows Sri Lankan food. He lived a decade.
I wondered.
Yeah. So yeah, we lived there together. The boys were born there. went to school there. And then when they were about, I think, 4 and 6 or 5 and 6 or something, we left to Uruguay. We went to Uruguay after that. And then because he had a real estate company in Sri Lanka. And when the training thing started kind of like fizzling out, and then I was pregnant and I had the boys, and I noticed that there was just nowhere to take the kids to play in Sri Lanka. Like either you go outside in the burning hot sun or nothing, like, or you go to McDonald's or something and like, get infections from their play areas. So then I decided to set up like a kids entertainment facility. So I set up a business there, which was like the first kind of play center there. And that was a big learning experience. I set it up with a friend, which was a bad idea, and that went to shit. And that was awful. That was a really awful time in my life. But it also instilled a lot of confidence in me that I can do these things with or without people. Like, there's this kind of, you also learn from that. I don't want to ever become somebody that I don't like in order to get where I want to get in business. And I think that has been, so my mum has this thing where she thinks that I've got like a 2-year cap of career. So whenever I start something, she's, oh my goodness, now in 2 years, don't go and do something else. Like she's always like this. She thinks that it's not that I get bored. It's just that circumstances have happened where I've been really uncomfortable with the person I'm becoming or the people I'm working with, and I don't have the energy to continue to be in a place where I'm not happy. That's it. Yeah. I will try my best to make things work in every situation. But if I just think it's a lost cause, I can't be bothered, to be honest. I cannot be bothered to become a horrible person in order to succeed in that environment. And I think that's why I changed. That's why I don't, I don't want to be in an unhappy place. I think life is too short. And then of course, also it was like that with at the end with PwC. Yeah. I don't like politics. I don't like corporate politics. I work really hard, Sarah, you know this. When I put my heart into something, I really go full pelt. So when I feel like there's something very wrong in terms of like team dynamics and and this kind of political backstabbing, for me it's like, what is this? When I handed in my resignation there, and I think that was one of the best decisions I did for myself, for my sanity, and I had Sven, who's super supportive, and just said, you don't need to do, because of course at that time I was always the main income earner for our family for years. So it was a huge decision to suddenly say, okay, I'm going to give up now. It's like, rent to pay, children to feed. How does that work? And he just went, I'll figure it out. Like, I've got this. You need to stop. Like, if you're sad, that's not a life.
It's interesting because we hear variations on that theme a lot when we talk to people. Clearly, security and stability, which often takes the form of finance in some way or another, it is an important thing, particularly when you have children. But people sort of figuring out how they can work around it and still make that leap is important. People being willing to make themselves feel a little scared around that. And whether that reining in finances and spending, you move to somewhere cheaper, whatever it takes, having a significant other who's prepared to take up a bit more of the burden, people making their peace with that turns out to be very important.
I think that's probably where we as a family differ from many, is that we go hell for leather, and we're always flying by the seat of our pants. So unlike, when I was listening to some of your podcasts, they've always had like a partner who's had a secure job when they've decided to do something more risky. Yeah. We've never had that. And we've done it from Uruguay to Chile, from Chile to Frankfurt, from Frankfurt over here. I mean, we just do things because we have big balls. But I always have faith that we will manage. Like, I have no issues cleaning someone's bathroom if I need to be able to pay the bills and make sure my kids are fed and that we're happy. We give it our all. We've had projects which didn't work before. We've given ourselves a deadline. Okay, we keep trying until this point, and then we need to do something else. And that's how we've rolled.
And your children will no doubt grow up to be very resilient. Geesha, I'm really intrigued to understand more about the business that you set up in Germany, and I'm just sort of desperate that there would be a Sri Lankan food opportunity in Newcastle, which is a little bit far, away, I suspect, because of the sustainability aspect of your business. But what is it that you exactly do in the business?
Okay, so we have set up a sustainable Sri Lankan food service. So it's not a restaurant. Each week we have a set number of menus, and they're made like we eat rice and curry in Sri Lanka. So in Sri Lanka, you don't get your rice separately and then your curry separately. You go to your little, corner restaurant, street food place, and you get a packet and they put the rice, and then you choose what curries you want on top, and it all gets served all together. And when you eat it with your fingers, and you eat everything all mixed up all together, and that's the experience. So what we decided to do was come up with a certain number of menus per week, and everything is online. So people log on, they see what the items are that week, they order it, they pay for it, and then we make to order. So there is no waste. We know exactly how many packets, we've got all our recipes, right? So we know exactly how much of each ingredient we need. We buy only what we need. We cook everything that we've calculated, and then we deliver it cold on a Friday to pickup points. So we decided that we didn't want to do this whole Lieferando, Deliveroo sort of thing. I guess our food is inconvenient, right? Our food is slow food. It's reminding people that really we can make an effort, to have good food, and to make sure that people think about they're consciously consuming, right?
Yes.
It's all about conscious consumption.
Mindful, yeah.
Yeah, totally mindful. So when we advertise, when we have our website, for example, it says very clearly why we do what we do. So why do we do it online? Why do we do it via pre-order systems? Is because we know exactly what we need to buy, and we don't have massive storage spaces full with food that is going to go off and be thrown in the dustbin at some point. Our fridge at the end of each week is empty, which is wonderful, right? It's really, there's absolutely nothing wasted. We make a little bit of food for us, for home, and for Sven's parents, and then the food that is being sold goes directly from our fridge, gets cooked nicely, home cooked feeling, and then into these packets, into the fridge, and then they get delivered. So the delivery thing is based on us not wanting to kind of home deliver, and not having this huge CO2 emissions from this individual delivery system.
Right.
So what we've done is we've created a network of partnerships with small, like, family-run businesses in our kind of area. So we deliver now all the way up to Dusseldorf, but instead of delivering to 50 households, we deliver to 10 or 12 pickup points, and the customers, it's their local joint. So
what a great idea.
So they can either cycle or just walk, or when they're doing their shopping, they go and pick up their food at the same time. And that's why it's sustainable. So it cuts down so much. And then when our customers go to them, they might, pick up some pastries, or they might get a drink at the same time, some ice cream, and see what it's just a really supportive system.
Yeah.
And it's lovely. I mean, every week we go and deliver the food to each of these pickup points and have a chat with the owners, and it can become very, like, familial, it's really lovely,
and a great way to support local businesses and sort of help them grow.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. I mean, one of the things that we talk about in our book and on these podcasts is people really creating careers for themselves that align their passions and their values. And this very much seems to be centered around your values and your passions. Because I know that prior to this, you really developed a big interest in sustainability. I mean, I remember watching you on Facebook, and you went through trying to like not use any plastics or anything. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I remember following you on that journey.
Yeah, so there was this plastics free July.
Yes.
And I thought, so I saw this and I was like, oh, I really want to try doing this. Let's see how it goes. But I was with everything that I try, I'm very open-minded, right? So I no huge expectations. I don't want to feel guilty also if I can't manage things. But I do really try hard. So I tried everything. We started, with the little net bags and taking them to the supermarket. Whenever we saw anything in plastic, we'd avoid it like the plague. Trying out all the shampoo bars and the conditioning bars for hair. Not happening on Sri Lankan hair. I tell you, this is not a good thing. But I tried it. A bamboo toothbrush. Yeah, also not my favorite, I have to say. After I smacked it a few times in the gum, I was just like, not for me. But we became really, really conscious about everything that we were seeing in the supermarket, which was also exhausting. Like every time we went somewhere, I was like, oh my God, look at the amount of plastic in this one row in the supermarket. Like, these are things that could easily be loose. But it was very, very eye-opening, and it made a very powerful impact on myself and on Sven and on the kids, of course. It was something that when we were talking about the food service industry and thinking about how would we set up our own food business, this was like a top priority. And we didn't want it to be a luxury good, because so we use compostable packaging. All our packaging that we give to the customer, we do not give anything plastic. It's all plant-based, and it costs a lot more than your plastic stuff, right? But it was something that we felt was really important for us to integrate into our business. So we absorb the cost of the packaging so that we make sure that our goods are for everybody.
We have someone in a few weeks on the podcast, Dave Ford, who is, I don't know whether he's part of or he developed, we'll find out in a few weeks, the Ocean Plastics Leadership Network, which is an activist industry community for ending plastic waste in our oceans. I think you'd find Dave fascinating.
Well, I've listened to all the podcasts that you guys have done.
We need to have this network of our podcasters and our storytellers. I keep on thinking of all the people who would she'd get along with Dave, and she'd get along with Adam.
Yeah.
And Andy Woodfield.
You know Andy, right? Do you know Andy?
He is my idol, because I listened to one of his webinars about Genius Power Dreams, and I was in love with this man.
I'm going to send him this clip. He's going to love this.
It was so funny, because on one of his activities, it said something about like, write in 5 years what you'd like to, and I said, I want to be working for Andy Woodfield.
Really?
That was my dream.
My God.
Make it happen, Sarah.
We can make that happen. He had this gin business, and he sold the gin business, and he is also someone who always needs a project. So we can definitely connect with Andy. I could see Andy going into the Sri Lankan food service business. Well, we will definitely connect you with Andy, who would love to know he has a global fan club.
My family know his name. I was like, oh my God, Sarah and Catherine did a podcast with Andy Woodfield, and they were like, oh right, yeah, we remember Andy Wood.
So Geesha, I've got two really quick questions, and one is, do you employ staff within the business?
Not at the moment. So the way things run in Germany it's a very traditional country. I reckon if I was in England, we would have grown the business 2 or 3-fold. But here, it's very, very traditional, they're very conventional. So we have applied for bank loans and all sorts, but because it says gastronomy on the top, they don't even look at it. Even though our whole system is risk averse, like we are no risk in comparison, because we have all our sales done before we buy the produce, right? So, and because we're not a restaurant, we are located like in the hood of
Yes,
the
yeah,
next town, right? So
yeah,
so rents are really low. We don't have any centralized, and because of the system, Sven and I do everything on our own at the
yeah,
moment. But we would love to expand. We would like to be on the admin side and then have people doing the more
yeah.
kitchen work so that we can grow the business further. And that's the plan. But we can't get finance. Our idea really is to maybe have like a food production, like a centralized food production facility.
Right.
And then we could do the whole online thing, but more regionally.
That's a great idea.
Perhaps, right?
Yeah.
And
Wow.
then have this sort of system rather than franchise, because I think I'd like to make sure that it stays very authentic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more control.
You want to
Some,
stick to the values that are at the
yeah.
heart of the company.
I think the values really are
Yeah.
so key in the whole thing. It's a really tough industry to be in. And this way, you get to do both. You get to have your family, you get to have a business that works. It's a real balance.
It's a really interesting business model. You started off with these values of I want to spend more time with the family. I want to do something sustainable. We enjoy cooking. There seems to be a market for Sri Lankan
Yeah.
food.
Sven and I are so on the same page. We're happy to let go of certain things. So
Yeah.
we would have had a massive market if we had gone on just order on demand, because there
Yeah.
are no other Sri Lankan restaurants around it.
Yeah.
Definitely in our area, there's none, but we didn't want to. We said, no, this is something that's important to us. Yes, we'll have a much smaller market share, but
This has been the culmination of all your
all the
professional
things,
experiences. You
Yeah.
did knowledge management, you did project management, you did accounting, management consulting. You brought this all together in this business.
it makes me so proud. And this is just a culmination of those feelings, those values. We're not sacrificing our relationship with our kids for this. We're not polluting, creating more waste, or creating a worse situation for
Yeah.
the world. And we're actually educating people, because we're constantly on social media. We're constantly talking to our customers.
Yeah.
This is why we do this. And it's a lovely feeling. And then you're feeding people and they're like, oh, your food's awesome. And it's like, oh, cool.
We do talk about really sitting at the heart of all the work that Catherine and I have been doing is about how to create a meaningful career, whatever meaningful looks like, and meaningful looks different to everybody.
Yeah.
But you really seem to have created a meaningful career for yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's that collection of all these experiences and all these feelings and all these situations that you've kind of been dropped in, or you've got yourself into, and how you got out of them, what you learned from that, and all of those things. If you are conscious about them and you think about them and you analyze them and then you go forward, I think you're in a much better place to figure out what brings you joy. I never thought cooking would ever bring me joy, because I was the takeaway girl. And then if you have a partner or a support network, like family who are just there for you, and you think, okay, let's give it a try, go for it. It's more sustainable personally if you enjoy what you're doing. It really is, because as soon as you have let go of a value that you hold dear to you, and you're doing something where that value is really not good, you can't do it forever. You really suffer for that. And I think I learned that really early on, that it's not worth it. I think you really have to enjoy what you do, and you can try lots and lots of things for the rest of your life. This might be, like my mother says, 2 years and you're finished.
Because Geesha, I think you're absolutely right, is that, when you're working in a values compromised situation, it's not just the damage that it's doing you then, it's how long it takes to recover from that and to get back to joy, because it's only when you've got the joy that you can see and act on the opportunities, such as, sort of discovering your cooking self.
Remember that you have the skills inside that You have the choices, and you can hone those skills to make those moves. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow, but there is a way to move.
And I think there's a very strong theme that I've heard coming through the entire magnificent range of experiences that you've had. The strength term nurturing comes to mind. And now when you're feeding people, that's an aspect of nurturing as well. So yes, it's very, very uplifting to listen to your story, Geesha.
Thank you. This was really wonderful. It was lovely to catch up.
Best of luck for the book. I'm
Thank
so
you.
excited for you guys.
Thank
really,
you.
really.